Hello, welcome back to Slightly Twisted Female. I'm your host, Brittany Vrew. Today I want to talk about something really sinister and dark that I stumbled across in my own region, in my own county, regarding schools. That is a trend that is apparently going on elsewhere in the country, and it is schools that are schools, teachers, and administrators that are meeting with children who are encouraging children who express some sort of alternative gender identity or, let's see, let's make sure that, oh, can you guys hear me now? Okay, great. Children who express that they have some sort of gender identity or, gender confusion, that the schools are actively socially transitioning those children and advising the children to not only not tell the parents, but they're telling the children that they won't tell the parents either. And they're actually helping children come up with, they're advising children to go home and to, maybe use a real name and real pronouns, but that when they come to school, they can use preferred pronouns and a preferred name. And that children have full executive control over what information is allowed to be communicated to the parent and and the child has to sign off on whether or not they can be involved, which parent, both or one or none, can be involved in communications with the school and can be involved in any meetings with the child. And they're meeting with the child against the permission of the parents. This may be, for the longest time, I'm trying to understand why has this transgenderism, why has this whole gender thing gotten so much institutional capture in such a short period of time. And this may explain a lot of it. Because children are being told, be careful about telling your parents. A lot of parents aren't very accepting. They might kick you out. They might not accept you. So maybe you shouldn't tell them. Here, you can come talk to us. There was this really bizarre TikTok trend where it was like teachers of like elementary school kids and middle schoolers and high schoolers, public school teachers who were like role playing what they would do if a trans kid came out to them. Let me see if I can find one of these. It was so weird. It was like, hey buddy, what's up? Oh my gosh, you're trans. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh no, honey, we don't have to tell your parents if you don't want to. I'll find one of them. It was just like so cringe. It was cringy and kind of like laughable, but then when you thought about it, it was actually really, really just sinister. And it's really shocking to me to discover that this is going on in my own district. I live in like a sort of moderate community that's, I think, like mostly socially progressive, but has a little bit conservative, like, I guess, economically, and, and maybe in some ways leans to the right. It's pretty, I'd say it's pretty solidly moderate. So, because we definitely lean to the left too. But we're not like super hyper woke or progressive. So I was really surprised to see how much of this is already starting to leak into our own schools. And I want to get on top of it because this is potentially the schools where my kids are going to be going. This is a school that, I went to, and I just don't understand how this is happening. So let me read to you really quick. We're going to look at this video, but I also want to read something from a local news source. Hey VF555, hey Abel, hey dear. VF555 says all over the state of only Florida and Alabama fighting this, going after second graders, telling children to keep this a secret is such a groomer move. It is that's literally the number one thing that I told my kids when they were as early as they could really understand anything was, if an adult ever tells you, keep this a secret from mommy and daddy. If an adult ever says that, that is a major red flag for you to come directly to me, to get away from that adult. Come right to me and tell me whatever it is that they said. You take any adult who says that, and you know that adult is extremely dangerous, and you should come straight to me. And you don't ever follow that. And I don't care what they tell you will happen, or if they threaten you or whatever. You say, okay, and then try to quietly get away from them. You tell me, and I on my grave, on my life, on my heart, no one will ever lay a finger on you. Someone threatens you, they'll come get you if you tell me. Nobody will lay a finger on you. And that person will be in very severe trouble. They'll be in danger. Trust and believe you'll be okay. And you can trust that you'll be okay. And that I will handle everything from there. But you don't ever keep a secret from me. Because I love you. I have your best interests at heart. Nothing I do is to harm you. Maybe I might have certain rules that seem unfair that you don't understand. But I will always be there to protect you. Any adult who tells you to keep a secret from me is not safe. And that should absolutely be a red flag. Guns solve this problem real fucking fast. Absolutely they do. I'm sorry, but they do. And I wish somebody would. And I've always felt confident in my ability to protect my kids in that way. And I have, good community support and stuff like that. I fucking wish an adult ever would tell my children to keep a secret from me. You got me fucked up. And it is scary that a public school, no less, that is government run, federally funded public schools that are funded by our tax dollars, have the audacity to be telling children, school children, that they should be keeping major things like gender identity secret from parents. And not only that, but the decision to socially transition children. Not only is it just unethical and disrespectful to the parents, it undermines the parent's role in that child's life. It's basically saying you don't need to listen to your parents. Your parents are not, you can't trust your parents. And like I've said many times before on this channel, one of the most troubling things that can happen to a child is for them to lose faith in a parent, in a primary caregiver, in somebody who's supposed to be, children attached to primary caregivers. And if it's the parents, and if they lose faith that those parents are competent, that they are strong, that they are in control, that they can make good decisions, that they are capable caretakers, when a child begins to lose faith in a parent's ability to make good decisions, to keep firm boundaries, to know what's best, to filter the world for that child, that's a really scary feeling for a child. Because a child starts to think, if I can't trust my parents to protect me, then who can I trust? Then maybe I need to be, and it makes children hyper vigilant. It makes them feel like nobody is safe and nothing is safe. And this was actually, it's a psychology experiment, one of the really famous ones is about attachment styles. And securely attached children, infants and young children, they'll notice if a parent is around, they'll check in, look to see that the parent's there, and they'll go play within the eyesight of the parent. And they'll socialize, and they'll play, and they'll take risks, and they'll try new things, and they'll risk maybe even falling and getting hurt because they know that the parent's close by, and they trust that their parent, if anything were to go wrong, is capable and will come up and handle whatever it is. If they fall and get hurt, your mom's going to get right up and help you and make sure that you don't go too far out of bounds. So they feel confident playing. A child who is insecurely attached, who feels like, I can't really, my mom has sometimes been there for me, but then there's been times when I was in trouble or I was in danger or I needed help or I got hurt and she was nowhere to be found. And this is why, drug addicted parents are so unhealthy for children to be around. Because kids can get hurt, and if the parent is high, or they're drunk, or they're just intoxicated in some way, and they're not able to quickly act and respond, over time, that creates a level of anxiety of there's been a lot of times where I needed my mom, where I got hurt, I fell down, and she didn't come. She was just, passed out somewhere or not paying attention. And that makes children very anxious. When a school tries to disrupt or disable a child's trust in their parents and tries to instill in them the idea that, oh, if your parents don't support this gender identity of yours, this made-up identity, or whatever it is that you want, well, that's because, that they don't really care about you and they don't know the real you. But we understand and we get it and we'll protect you. We'll be what you need. That is groomer behavior. That is groomer language. That belongs nowhere near our school. Our schools work for us. I remember one time my son came home and I was like, here, I want you to do some extra practice problems for math. And I remember my son said, no, my teacher said that we don't have to do those. Those are optional. I was like, oh, they're optional for other students, but they're not optional for you. Please finish them. He was like, no, my teacher says I don't have to, and my teacher's in charge. And I sat him down and I said, listen, sweetheart. Your teacher works for me. I'm your teacher's boss. Your teacher's salary is paid by me. Your teacher answers to me. I am your mother. I'm at the top of the totem pole. Your teacher is an authority figure. They are above you on the totem pole. So yes, you must listen to your teacher. But your teacher must listen to me. So if I say that you need to do it, you need to do it. Okay? Regardless of what your teacher said. So I'm really stunned and disgusted that this is what's going on. So I don't know if I want to watch the video first. Here, let's read this really first. Okay, where is it? All right. So this is a school that's within my county. Hold on. Okay. So let's take a look at what this says, because this is very, very, very troubling. Let's see what let's see what the chat's saying. It says VF555 says gay teachers used to hide being gay, but it never should be talking to kids about sex or anything creepy like this. Dear says, is ASTF here? What do you mean is ASTF here? I'm here. It's Brett. Let's see. Stickers won't. These idiots, Abba and Preach, just said trans women are women, but not female. Abel Garcia said teachers are pushing their luck, especially since they are protected by those in power. It doesn't help since they are pushing actually harms kids. And we need to realize, like I said, that teachers, the school board are employees of parents. We pay the taxes. They answer to us. That is never okay. You need a class snitch, someone to record teachers and activities, report back to parents. Yeah, this is, oh, I didn't know it was live. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, now I'm in it. This is live. All right. So it says Delaware Valley Journal. It says they won't let us tell the parents. Whistleblower teacher on Great Valley School's transgender policy. It says, if you are a parent of a child questioning their gender identity in the Great Valley School District, their teacher is not allowed to tell you. And let's remind everybody for a minute that this is a gender identity is a mythological concept. Very much like the spirit or God or a goddess. It's something that can't be seen, can't be proven, and it is very akin to a religious or a cult belief. So if a parent doesn't want to indulge that is well within their right. I am a gender atheist. I don't believe in the idea that there's some gendered spirit that is different from my child's biological sex or my biological sex or anyone's biological sex. Keep religion out of schools. You don't need to protect my children from me. If my child came in with bruises and cuts, if they were emaciated, if they seem very, signs of some sort of sexual trauma, then yes, then you need to call in authorities. But you need to be, proactive and call in children and youth and whatever. You don't go ahead and socially transition my child, which we know puts that child at an increased risk for medicalization, whether or not there really isn't even a presence of true gender dysphoria. Let's see. People say, yeah, you need a class snitch. I'm glad my kids are grown up now. I'd get into fights if anything like this happened at their school. I'm already signed up. So on April 25th, there is a school board meeting. I'm going, and I'm definitely, I get 5 minutes to make a comment. I'm very, very excited because I will be in there and I'll be commenting, and I'll go to every single school board that happens, just so I can keep an eye on this shit and what's going on, because I'm really not cool with what's happening. Oh, and somebody had wrote me saying that, like, they think that I shouldn't drink or eat food while I'm on air. I'm going to. I'm sorry. Sorry if it's annoying you guys. I have to multitask a lot. Otherwise, I just won't eat, because I usually stop my streams once my kids come home, and then I got to get dinner ready. I won't have time to eat myself, and then I'll get lightheaded. I don't have a lot of free time. So, I really try to make this work and make this happen in my schedule. But so sorry if it's annoying, but it's probably not going to stop. All right, it says, if you're the parent of a child questioning their gender identity, which probably are only questioning their gender identity because it's being taught and talked about in schools, even like off curriculum by teachers, inappropriately so. In the Great Valley School District, their teacher is not allowed to tell you. In fact, under district policy, the teacher is required to keep that information required. I want to see this policy. If anybody, damn, I wish like some of you guys lived near. I want someone to find that policy for me. It's the Great Valley School District in Cheter County. If anyone's able to find it, I'll look for it too. But if anybody just feels like doing a little like homework assignment and wants to find that policy for me or can find it, I would appreciate you so much. My email address is aslightlytwistedfemale@gmail.com. It says, and the teacher must also call your child by the name they choose and refer to them by the pronouns that they wish. How's my sound? I'm not like distorted, am I? Is my audio okay? Okay. Cece says, not only is it a spiritual concept, it is the vehicle by which misogyny is spread and perpetuated. Why are we giving any validity to it? Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, it absolutely is. It's insane. This is very anti-women, anti-woman rhetoric. So no, I'm not playing along. And I'm not going to play with you if you try to, capture my children into some sort of ideology that I don't consent to. I fucking wish you would, because I'll raise hell. Trust me. Quote, it seems to be a very disturbing thing to me, keeping this information from parents, a longtime Great Valley school teacher told Delaware Valley Journal. Delaware Valley Journal is withholding the teacher's name at their request to allow them to speak freely without the fear of backlash. See, this is what's also so scary. This is so much like McCarthyism. People have to all speak, under anonymity, under the shroud of anonymity. It's the same thing with, the Penn Swimmers girls, and the parents. They're like, oh, please don't name us. We want to make comments, and we love trans people and we support them and we think it's great. But we just really wish that you wouldn't destroy our daughter's legacy and hard work and, rob opportunities from them. It's like everybody always has to qualify it with like, oh, but of course we believe trans women are women and we please just don't destroy our lives. If everyone's so terrified to give an opposing opinion, that's a problem. That's something that should be looked into. That's concerning. Okay, it's, they're talking about oppression. That's oppressive. The educator said other teachers in the affluent Cheter County district are also uncomfortable keeping the information secret from parents but are afraid to speak out. In the past years, a small number of kids might identify as a different gender, but since the schools opened again after the pandemic closure, the number of those students has exploded, they said. And that's another thing, too, is that something about the pandemic, and I think it has to do with the fact that a lot of kids were all on cyber schooling. They were all on virtual schooling. The kids in my district were all given laptops and iPads, and they did all their schooling online. I think that a lot of these kids became very proficient on their laptops and on their iPads, they didn't block a lot of stuff, so they were able to, like, surf the web. I mean, my elementary schooler, not so much. But my middle schooler, the one who some kid in his grade was on porn, yeah, there's not a whole lot of restrictions. I think that they got very proficient at, finding things. And it's like you're spending a lot of time, you're isolated, and there's this niche online community of like transgenderism. And it's like, and what they're telling kids, it's like, oh, if you're a little bit different, if you're not perfectly within like societal's expectations of like what a woman is, who is perfectly within that expectation of a woman? Who is perfectly feminine? Who's perfectly masculine? Name me one example of a person that, it fits within that perfect box. Is there like a list of criteria that I don't know about? Because I'm really confused. Because if you had told me that I'm such a mix of qualities, I have certain masculine traits about me. I have, certain feminine traits about me. I have certain just neutral traits about me. I don't understand. So kids are probably hearing this. And again, children at this age are seeking identity. They want to feel unique. We are in a, TikTok society, an Instagram society, where it's people who, have these bizarre things about them, or maybe they look interesting, or whatever it is, that are just strange and different, and they stand out and they shoot to instant stardom. Kids want to stand out like that. It's hard as a child to grow up with social media and see that a few cherry-picked people with these very unique qualities shoot to stardom, get all this attention and praise, and it's just this like super reinforcing thing. Well, and another thing is too, this obsession with oppression. Who's the oppressor class and who's the oppressed? We all know that you get a lot of social perks from being part of an oppressed class. Nobody wants to be part of the oppressor class. So if you're white, if you're affluent, if you, a white male, even a white female, if you, whatever, don't have anything else that is special, and you're tired of being told, oh, you're an oppressor, you're this, you can't have some special identity, then they create one. Well, I'm transgender. I'm non-binary. So many heterosexual women are non-binary, right? It's just a way to just be something else that's special. And to claim, it's even like what Mr. Beard, the guy that I did the video on, is like, well, I'm actually not a man. I didn't want to talk about this, but I'll do it. I'm non-binary, and I'm coming out now. And I was like, oh, okay, so you're not part of the patriarchy. You're not a misogynist, fat piece of shit. Oh, okay, because you're non-binary. Oh, well, we got it, Beard. That explains everything, fucking clown. No, that's not how that works. Let's see. Dear says, Britt, we don't care if you get on here. Thank you. I appreciate that. It'll be like some ASMR, but like gross. Abel says, I don't mind if you eat. Thank you. Thank you. Mila says, who the fuck gets bothered by that? Thanks, guys. Anja X says, this is what I thought was the right thing, to hide this shit from parents at school. Now I'm ashamed of my opinions. You've opened my eyes so much. Well, I'm glad. And listen, Anja, and I think that that's what's really powerful, because it's like, there are things that I look back and I'm like, God, how did I think that? And it's crazy. And I think we need to constantly, this is why we have to read sources of people we don't agree with. Read pro-LGBT stuff. Read pro-gender stuff. If you're a Republican, listen to a few Democratic sources or Democrat sources. If you're a Democrat, listen to Republicans. That is the way you will protect yourself from being, kind of like led into sort of brainwashy ideas that later you snap out of and you're like, what the fuck was I thinking? One of the best things I ever did was to start listening to right-wing content. And I used to be afraid to. I was like super leftist, super hardcore. Like I said, I was in Antifa when I was in like 16 or 17. And I have pictures to prove it. I'll do an embarrassing like picture reveal one day. But I started listening to sources of people that I was always told never to listen to. I remember there was like some Fox News correspondent who came to speak at one of the universities down the street from the college that I went to, and people like rabidly protested it. And they were like, get these people out of here. They don't belong on our college campus. And I was kind of like, I remember kind of be like, yeah, like, okay, like, I get it. Go and challenge that person. But like to say that they shouldn't come here is a little weird. Like, what are you afraid of? So, it's just really important to challenge ourselves. If you're afraid to hear an opposing view, that's because you're afraid that it might sway you out of your beliefs. That's because you're afraid that maybe it'll present you with something that you don't have an answer to, and it's more compelling than what you already believe. So it's just really important. Jazz the Glass says parental alienation is grounds for a divorce. This is clearly abusive. Absolutely. Absolutely. And parental alienation is also grounds for winning custody, too, in family court. It is really serious. Parental alienation, and when proven, can have serious implications for that parent who's engaging in that behavior. And public schools are allowed to get away with this. This is absolutely bullshit. And it's chimera. I've been saying dear chimera. Somebody literally emailed me. It was like, hey, by the way, it's spelled chimera, or it's pronounced chimera. And I was like, oh, I've only seen it, like, I know what it is. It's like a half animal, half human thing, but like I've only seen it written. So sorry about that. You're very gracious for not correcting me. Mila, guys, I came out as non-binary yesterday just because I cut my hair short. Yeah, guys, you know what? Somebody called me a Karen the other day and basically said, like, I'm like a, ignorant white lady. So I let them know. I said, hey, I'll have you know, asshole, I'm non-binary. So technically, I'm more oppressed than you. So fuck off, okay? So now you're oppressing me. Like, it's like the Uno reverse card. Like, haha, nope, I'm actually more oppressed than you are. Suck my dick. Like, it's ridiculous. All right, so let's see. But since schools reopened again after the pandemic closure, the number of those students has exploded, they said. In September, the guidance counselor gave us the names, the educator said. About 20 children per grade were either transitioning or thinking of changing their gender. 20. They say, oh, this is so rare. This is so unusual. 20 kids in one grade. Per grade. That's 80 kids in a 4th grade in like a high school. 80 kids. And we're not thinking, hey, what's going on here? Maybe this is just like this is a trend. Maybe we shouldn't sterilize these kids. Maybe we shouldn't make permanent lasting changes on their bodies. Maybe we got to consider, is this really biologically based? Is there other, things at play here? Come on. Max? Hold on. I feel like my dog's eating my shoe. Hold on. Hey. Stop it. Stop eating my shoe. Oh, Max. Yeah, so that's crazy because there were no trans kids when I went to high school. There was one in my university. Quote, we really wanted clarity, the teacher said. Why the district believed this was in the best interest of the kids for parents to not know this information. A spokesperson for the Great Valley School District did not respond to the Delaware Valley Journal's request for comment. Of course they didn't, because, hey, we don't need to answer, or, we're not a public entity that's, that must answer to the community that serves the community, that's paid for by the community. We're not a public entity. We don't have to answer to what we're doing to kids or our policies. There needs to be more transparency. That's not okay. And I'm going to bring this up at the next school board meeting. Like, trust and believe. And I'll live stream that one too. And I'll let them know that I'm live streaming it and that I don't intend to turn off my thing, because with the last event, it was like kids or whatever. Well, this is a public event. and consisting of adults within the community, and I'm well within my rights. So try to tell me to turn off my phone. It's not going to happen. Oh, Dear said, who was emailing you about me? I didn't care. I know you didn't. See, it's because you're nice. No, I don't even think they were trying to be a dick. I think they just like knew I was making an ass of myself. A spokesperson for the Great Valley School District. Okay. The teacher believes some staff members encourage kids to consider changing their gender, and I'm sure that happens. And some kids are doing it just to get attention. Also sure that happens. They've learned about being transgender on social media or through their peers or library books. During puberty, many kids are, quote, confused and have discomfort about their bodies, their teacher said. Most of the students who say they want to change their gender are girls, they added. Yeah, could it be the hypersexualization of young girls? Do you know? I wish I could show like side by sides of like my 7th grade into my 8th grade. I literally went from being some like potato shaped little like shithead kid to having the body of like a 19-year-old within like a year. My life changed so dramatically. Suddenly I had this like one male teacher that used to always kind of like touch me on my legs and stuff, or like pinch me and make little like weird comments at me. I remember I like was at my locker one time freshman year, and some kids like kind of came up to me, and one kid was like saying something about like asking me if I suck dick, and like his friends were all like giggling, and they were like, he was like, yeah, can I take you out on a date? And I was like, what the fuck is I like didn't know what to say. And it was like, I just remember as a kid just getting like beat red and being like, I want this to stop. Don't touch me. Like, and like, you don't know what to say as a kid. And I felt so, and I was new. I was new my freshman year of school. So I had like no friends, and I was kind of a weirdo. And I just remember I would always get like hypersexualized by like the seniors and like the boys and even some of the male teachers and stuff like that. And then there was this like big joke about me, like, you know, who was going to fuck me first at the school. And it was awful. And it's like, I can only imagine how like, I know how that stuff feels like, you know, and girls think that the best way to get away from it is to just, you know, and especially I can only imagine like if I was a lesbian, if I was like totally repulsed by these guys and being like, how do I get this attention off me and get these disgusting people to stop, you know, ew. Hey, Ari. So Sarah Vogue says, my friend in high school came out as trans and I automatically supported it as a legitimate thing because he went to a therapist and everything. He asked me to help him be a girl, and I took him shopping for girls' clothes and helped him develop his style. Kids swallow the shit inherently. Totally. PF555 says, is that grooming for these kids young? Or how much money is that for grooming these kids young? That is super effective brainwashing. Dear Chimera says, manufacturer dysphoria. Totally. Each kid is $500,000 to Big Pharma. There is no such thing. Totally. All right, let's keep going. The district has even instructed elementary school teachers to withhold information about children questioning their gender. How is that okay? And also, I don't know if you guys remember, but Vanessa Vokey did a really good video on a Psychology Today paper that was redacted and taken down that was talking about, it said, while many believe that trans kids are rejected by their families, evidence says that it might actually be the other way around, that it's trans kids who are rejecting their families. You know, a lot of kids want to feel like, oh, again, we prioritized oppression so much. We've made oppression such like a virtue. Whoever's oppressed, you know, gets all the attention, gets to go and do speeches and stuff. So if somebody can manufacture this thing, maybe they're not getting quite enough attention, or they don't feel special, they don't feel good about who they are, and they see, well, one really easy way to get attention is, oh, I'm trans, and I'm, you know, my family doesn't support me. And then all of a sudden everybody like comes around you. You see this on TikTok all the time. It's like, oh, honey, I will take care of you. We'll be there for you. You are so brave and stunning and strong. And don't let anyone tell you you can't be you who you are. And here, we'll come have a speech. And we have days dedicated to you. And you'll get priority everything. And suddenly it's all this love bombing that these kids who just wanted attention, who just want to belong, who just want to feel like they matter, like they're important. Everybody wanted that. I wanted that. Who didn't want that as a kid? Who didn't feel like maybe they weren't getting enough attention as a kid? I had like no friends. So I don't, who wouldn't want that? It's just love bombing, and now it's being enabled by schools. Rather than trying to reconnect kids with their parents, it's like, oh, let's cut them off, and then you can be this big victim. We can talk about how fucked up your parents are because you don't get it. One concern is that children who are questioning their gender might also need mental health services. How will they get those services if their parents are being kept in the dark? It might get to the point where, I'll bet you anything, it'll get to the point where, these schools will help children become legally emancipated, or where the schools can override the parent's signature on medical stuff. Maybe, maybe schools will be granted, what is it called? Power of attorney to sign off on medical decisions for children. It's not okay. How can we rationalize keeping this information from the various stakeholders who are in the best position to help, the parents? Also, clubs like Safe Space run by the guidance department are not on the district's website, so parents have no idea they exist, the teacher said. Good for you to these teachers. And if there are any teachers in my district, I'm going to start trying to share some of these more like locally relevant streams and stuff around to some of like the parents groups and stuff. So if there's ever a teacher, Cheter County, who ends up tuning in for any reason in the future and you stumble across this, please know, if you see this sort of stuff and you know that it's wrong, please do what this teacher is doing. Contact me. Contact the media. If you need to be anonymous, fine. But even better is if you put your name on it, and then we'll defend you. I'll help publicize it. This is why I want to build a bigger platform, so that I can try to defend local teachers who do whistleblow and go against the grain and stuff like that. And I have enough people where I can be like, no, we'll have your back. We'll come up with a fund or something. Let's see. It's not the same page as the chess club, the robotics club. Parents, basically, they don't know. And any teacher who raises concerns over what can sometimes appear to be an ideological agenda in the school is labeled, quote, intolerant or bigoted, the teacher said. Bruce Chambers, a former school board president, shared an email that a guidance counselor sent to a teacher about a student who uses different gender at school than at home. Bullet point, name in the student's records, Grace. Preferred name, Greg. Preferred pronouns, they, them. Parent awareness, Greg's parents are not aware, so please use Grace and the pronouns she, they if making contact with parents. Greg mentioned that they will write Grace on papers in school, so the parents will see those schoolwork papers. And I've heard that the schools are literally meeting with kids and teaching them how to be incognito. It's fucking sick. Let's see. Cece says, I don't know, but whenever a guy comes out as trans, they get so much female attention. Girls always want to befriend them. Exactly, Cece. Like Kara Vogue just said, girls oh, honey, let me help you. Who doesn't love having the gay best friend? The guy who will go pick up dudes with you who you can be close with, but who isn't sexually attracted to you. It's like a girlfriend, but then you get the guy's perspective. It's fun having the gay best friend, right? So it's the same. They're oh, honey, and they want to be a part of it, and they want to help you pass and do all this stuff. And yeah, and again, now these guys can cuddlefish these girls, get in, with them. Or it's these, girl, these they, them girls, or, he, him girls who didn't want that sort of sexual attention from guys. Maybe they want it from girls. Maybe they're lesbians. Or maybe they just want to be able to be taken seriously and not sexualized. See, I was always like, while I didn't like sexual attention from like a lot of like the losers I was getting it from, I still was kind of like a sexual person my whole life. So I wasn't like totally disgusted when guys would pay attention to me. But I can only imagine, if that was just like gross to me. And it's so invasive, it's just so crossing your boundaries. And there were some times that it was just so crossing my boundaries. Um, Mila said, I watched too many My 600-Pound Life, and just like detransitioners, they often self-harm through eating disorders and now surgeries to deal with abuse suffered at a young age. No, it's really sad. It just manifests in different ways. Let's see. Julia said it makes it, BF555 says, enter the Superman closet. Yeah, exactly. Like, hit the closet before you come to school and right before you leave. Go back to being graced once you get on the bus home. Julia said it makes it 1,000 times more difficult for them to desist once all that fuss has been made on them coming out. That is exactly right. That's exactly right, Julia. And not only does it make it difficult for them to desist, it also makes it difficult for them to resist medical transition. Because things just start going and the ball just starts rolling and they don't always have the power or know how to stop it and they feel guilty. And a lot of times it's not even their fault. They may have just said, I don't feel comfortable with whatever. Maybe they learned about transgender. Maybe they bring up something, right? And all of a sudden now they're having meetings about them. And then, a lot of kids will just be like, oh, yeah, mm-hmm. And a lot of it is really like suggestive. They're putting a lot of suggestion in front of the kid. And the kid just kind of goes along with it. And then it's like, now they're telling their other teacher and now they're reaching out to, they're saying, oh, there's these affirmative care places you can go. And they're helping them, connect with their doctor and helping them get referrals. And it's like the next step and the next step and the next step. It takes a lot for a child after such a big fuss has been made for them to say, you know what? Never mind. Have you guys ever watched, who here has watched Forrest Gump? Do you guys remember when he was running? He did that like long cross-country run and he kept picking up people and they were all jogging with him. I remember he gets like way far out and like, it was like the news was following them and it became this big, cult thing and it was so cool. And then he just randomly is like in the middle of the desert and he kind of slows down and everyone was like, wait, stop, what's he doing? He's going to say something. He's going to speak. Shh. And then he's just like, I think I'm going to go home now, and turns around and starts like running back home and everybody's like, man, what the fuck? What? What? That's bullshit. We were all following you. And it was like our identities, our sense of self was tied up into you, what you doing this. We were living through you. You are our proxy. If you don't follow through, well, that's really shameful because we put a lot of time and attention into you, young lady. We put ourselves on the line to support you, and you're just gonna, And they're not even gonna say that, but I can only imagine that a child is internalizing and feeling like that would be the case. This is so crazy. So it says, editor's note, the names were changed to protect the student's identity. Chambers, who served on the board from 2009 and 2011, was board president for 2 years, is appalled by the district's current policy, as he should be. He is a grandparent now and a concerned citizen. I gotta reach out to this guy and get see if he'll interview with me. I might need to change my channel name. I wonder if I should change it so that it sounds more legit. My name is based on my old blog that was a slightly twisted fairy tale. And then I remember when I just made this, I made it a slightly twisted fairy tale, but then I just switched it to female because I was just trying, the whole adult human female. I was like, okay, so, but maybe I should just go by my name or something so that it seems more legit. In this case, Grace has asked to use the name Greg and the pronouns they, them. The teachers are being instructed not to tell the parents about this and to go along with the name and pronoun changes that the student wants. And you see this, teachers are aware that the student is hiding it from her parents. Also note that the guidance counselor uses the student's preferred name and pronouns in the last bullet, Chambers said. This school that we're talking about This is right down the street from me, and this is the school that my niece is going to attend when she makes it to high school. So this isn't just like some random school out in the middle of nowhere. This is relevant to me. Like, this is real. So basically, the students are taking on a new gender name and pronouns in school, holding it from their parents, and the district staff and teachers are instructed to conspire with the student to hide it from the parents, says Chambers. This is the district's policy. Quote, oh, so we found the policy, good. Quote, all persons, including students, have a right to privacy, which includes the right to keep private one's transgender status or gender non-conforming presentation at school. No, you don't have a right to privacy from your parents when you are a minor. That is a gross misrepresentation of student rights. Unless you're like an emancipated minor. Information about a student's transgender status, legal name, or gender assigned at birth may constitute confidential medical or educational information. Disclosing such information to other students, their parents, guardians, or other third parties may violate privacy laws such as the Federal Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA. May. Under what planet? If a child expresses that they are suicidal or that they've been engaging in self-harm, you would never see a school saying that they can't discuss that with the parent or relay that to the parent, ever. This is grooming, and this is a way for institutions to capture and basically take over as parents of our children. They want to emancipate our children and separate us from our power and our right to govern our own families as we see fit. That is unreal. Dear Chimera says, I hate when straight people go to gay clubs. They always say some dumb shit to me like, quote, I just want you to know this is a safe space for you. Like, bitch, this is my space, not yours. Of course it's. We're here for you. Listen, I'm not homophobic. I think it's great. I think it's great that, we want you to know that we respect you. It's like, yeah, like, get away from me. Why are you even here? That's really funny. Oh, God. It's like, it was like when my aunt was trying to like relate to my boyfriend. She's like, yeah, I used to have I had a black friend when I was in high school. Oh, we were the best of friends. Let me tell you. I used to be friends. Her family treated me like I was one of their kids. Yeah. I know. Would you believe it? When I was like, okay, like Aunt Sandy, like what does this story have to do with anything? And he was like, oh, that's great that you like were friends with a black person one time. Like, well done. Like, I don't know, what the fuck do you want me to say? Oh, Christ. All right, let's see. Therefore, school personnel should not disclose information that may reveal a student's transgender status or gender nonconforming presentation to others, including the student's parents, guardians, and other school personnel, unless legally required to do so or unless the student has authorized such disclosure. That's so inappropriate to put children in a position where they have to like make authorizations and basically elevating them above the parent. Basically saying like, you don't have to listen to your parents. You're in charge. You, the 14-year-old, can decide what your parents know and what they're involved in. VF555 says it's just school grooming. It absolutely is school grooming. And I think that these schools should be treated like groomers and like child abusers because that's not okay. It's never okay. Mila says normalization on TV. Don't know if anyone saw the dumpster fire of the Sex and the City reboot. And just like that, a kid came out as non-binary and socially transitioned in school before the parents knew. Exactly. It's just setting the framework. We are under extreme institutional capture right now, and it's scary. It's very scary. There is no age given in the policy, so it could be applied to students as young as kindergartners, says Chambers. Quotes, teachers need to have trusting relationship with parents, says Chambers. My wife, Janet, was a teacher, and they pride themselves on having a relationship with parents. Holding something back is just contrary to a trusting relationship. Who's texting? Yeah, it's nutty. All right, so in case you guys were, not sure that this was real, let's take a look. Let's see. So this is How Gender Ideology Almost Destroyed My Family by January Littlejohn. This is from the Florida Family Policy Council. The bio says, listen to January Littlejohn's testimony about her family's encounter with gender ideology, presented at the Empowering Parents to Protect Children, Responding to Critical Race Theory and Transgender Ideology lecture hosted by the Heritage Foundation and Florida Family Policy Council on November 3rd, 2021. So I live in Pennsylvania, so the article that we just read from is about a school in Pennsylvania, and this is about a school in Florida. And let's take a look at the similarities, shall we? So this, just so you know that this isn't some fringe thing that, one or two school districts are doing, that this is really happening. And while we're doing that, I'm going to go get more tea.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank John with the Florida Family Policy Council for having me today. I am here to tell you how gender ideology almost destroyed my family. I am a stay-at-home mom to 3 amazing children. We're very close with our children, and I spend most of my days volunteering at their schools like most typical stay-at-home moms, taking them back and forth to theater, practice, swim, etc. It's no revelation that COVID lockdowns caused a rapid decline in the mental health of our teens and our children. Our 13-year-old daughter was no exception. She became socially withdrawn, more anxious, and depressed. Leading up to COVID, she had a friend group that was obsessed with anything to do with LGBTQ letters. 3 of the children had come out as non-binary or transgender within 3 months' time. So when our daughter told us she was experiencing distress about her gender at the height of the pandemic, we were completely caught by surprise. She had expressed no signs of gender confusion or distress in early childhood or leading up into this announcement. So we were trying our best to navigate these uncharted waters and support her in the best way we could and help her through her feelings. We found a counselor and started our own research, which led us to gender ideology.
So you guys hear how she was saying how the friend group was obsessed with gender ideology, et cetera, et cetera. That is so, anybody who's familiar with Abigail Schreier's work, Irreparable Damage, what did I just do? That's the whole premise of her body of work that is based off of, another, what was it, Princeton? What's the woman who did the original ROGD, Rapid Onset Gender Dysphoria paper that was redacted? Do any of you guys know? Regardless, they're talking about, how especially with girls who are around, puberty, it's really socially contagious, and it's takes on a very, very similar ideology, a very similar shape that the sort of pro-Anna, pro-Mia subculture, that sort of Tumblr, that sort of, that like website underground framework of pro-anorexia and pro-bulimia as like a lifestyle. And they would have things like thinspo, thinspiration. It's very similar. It's about just being very rigid, trying to really control your body. And it has a lot to do with controlling our bodies. When we feel out of control, at a time when we feel the most out of control, when our bodies are going through the most robust changes that they ever will in their lives. We go from these literally, sort of agendered bodies to very, very sexed bodies, a very female sexed body, a mature female sexed body. And with that comes a lot of different, responses from the people and the world around you. And one way to control that is to have these just perform these rigid, almost ritualistic behaviors around body control. And it happens within groups of kids. I remember when I first started doing advocacy on Instagram, before I even started my YouTube channel, I remember I got like bombed by like some high school friend group, and they were all trans identified guys. There was like one or two were non-binary. They said they all went to the same high school together and they were all trans, and they'd all been friends for a long time, and they just happened to all be trans. And I was like, and I remember like linking them to all this like, you know, ROGD stuff, and they're like, we're not reading all that shit, you Karen. And I was like, okay, God bless you guys then. Please, before you go and amputate your breasts, maybe you should click the link. Oh, Lisa Littman. Thank you, Paolo Nidwala. Thank you. Lisa Littman is the original researcher who wrote the paper on rapid onset gender dysphoria that Abigail Schreier's irreversible damage is fundamentally based on. Thank you.
School started in September 2020, and I reached out to a teacher and told her the struggles our families had been dealing with. We let her know that we were not affirming our daughter's preferred name and pronouns at home, that we did not feel like this was in her best interest, that she was receiving mental health counseling to help her process what she was going through. I also told the teacher that I felt it was directly related to her friend group, that my daughter has ADHD, which puts her emotionally immature and behind her peers.
My question is too, why would this be like the first resort for a clinician to be like, okay, well, transitioning needs to be the first thing that you jump to? Why would it not be like, all right, let's go through all these things. Let's unpack and explore all these other possibilities. And then if none of those seem to work, then we can explore whether or not this is a true case of gender. You know why? It's because of selfish, predatory, adult trans-identifying people who probably want to have transgender surgeries in medicine for completely different reasons. And they're so frustrated at all of the red tape and the sort of gatekeeping. And I feel like I know, and I've listened to a lot of trans-identified males talk, and they'll be like, God, if only I had puberty blockers when I was a kid, I wouldn't having to go through all these different surgeries now if I had just blocked my puberty. They really they just fantasize that, oh, if only I blocked my puberty, I essentially would have developed as a female. It's like, it's almost delusional. So like, we want to make sure that kids don't have to have any of that, so they can go straight into it, because they keep thinking that their lives would be so much better if only, they could look more female than they are now, and they didn't have to go through all these additional surgeries and stuff. And it's just not realistic. That's not reality. And that's sort of why we had this, universally affirmative model.
And that while we weren't affirming her name at home, I didn't feel like we could stop her from adopting a nickname at school. I now know better. It turns out the teacher I shared my heart with was the LGBTQ advocate on campus. I didn't hear anything again from my daughter until a couple of weeks later when she got into the car, and bubbly told me she had met with 3 school officials to change her name, and how funny, because they asked her which restroom she preferred to use. I was shocked. I immediately called the school and was called back by both the guidance counselor and the vice principal, and they told me they could not disclose what occurred at the meeting with my child.
Yo, you got me. First of all, that is the only phone call that they would have... Sorry, isn't that annoying? It's the only phone call that they would have had to make, and I would have absolutely been like, yeah, no. I would have called like every media outlet. I would have called my lawyer. If a school called me and said, we can't release some information to you about your child, excuse me? I'm sorry, what did you just say to me? No. First of all, I'm coming right now to pick up my child, and you're going to hear from my lawyer? Are you out of your mind? Do you know who you're talking to? I'm this child's parent. You work for me. Who the fuck do you think you're talking? Yo, that would have had to be the only thing that they would have had to say to me, and that shit would have blown up.
I was volunteer of the year at this school. They knew who I was. I was not a stranger. I ran their copy room. I knew all of the teachers. I was there up there every week.
Right, and they're like, demonizing this woman, like, oh, we don't know that you're safe for your child. Who did you vote for? I don't know that we can trust you with your making decisions for your own child. It's so sick, yo. It's so sick. What was it? Judy C says to prevent them from having kids, to prevent neurodiverse children from breeding. Absolutely. It totally is a eugenics project. Absolutely. Let's see. Beatrix Kiddo video said, I've worked as a special needs educational assistant. I got a theory that the jump directly to trans or non-binary is potentially a money saver for schools. ADHD, Asperger's, ASD, all these require extra staff and money. Yeah, that's so true. It's a really good point. Because again, this is such like a magic pill, like a magic, fix. And then once they're trans, they really do have a de facto disabled status at that point, because everyone can see, and then they get all these special kind of just accommodations or whatever it is, and it doesn't. But you're right, it doesn't require additional staff, it doesn't require additional educational supports or anything like that, and there's an excuse as to why. And then also they know it's also good for the school, because that kid is gonna be fast tracked up to, like, that's why Penn fast tracked Will up through the whole swimming. And look, suddenly Penn Swim, for better or worse, it is suddenly, a national talking point, when no one was checking for UPenn swim girls swim team before. It's such a big thing for the school. They're thinking, oh, maybe we'll have a student who is in the public eye next, or, again, if you can have boys who compete as girls, they're all going to be getting first place in things that girls can't compete with. Hey, maybe if we trans enough kids, we'll be able to get some trans girls on the sports teams who are going to be smashing records. And another thing that's really sick too, when you have trans-identifying males smashing records and replacing the names of women who actually set those records, you are erasing those women from history. You are scrubbing their names out of the history books, and you are writing over it with some male's name. You are erasing women from the past, from the present, and from the future. This has to stop. I just don't get how we gotten here. For fuck.
They proceeded to tell me my daughter had to give consent by law for me and my husband to be notified and present at the meeting. My 13-year-old daughter, who can't vote, drink, or enter in any other legal contract without our permission or input. After several weeks of back and forth with the district, finally we were able to meet with the principal, and we were finally shown the transgender, gender nonconforming student support plan that was created and signed by my daughter.
That's another thing too. It's like they want to get your kid alone long enough to really get it, like, rooted in. And then they'll let you know, after all this progress has already been made, after all these decisions have already been made, conversations have been had, now we can talk to the parents. Now, because we feel like the kid's really captured, we got them. Andrew for Handle says, someone needs to see loud and clearly that it is impossible to change sex. Dr. Robert Winston in the UK has said this, but it needs more volume. Yeah, right. A lot of doctors are on board with this too. It's unbelievable. Luckily, my girlfriend, my really good friend, his wife, is an OBGYN. And she's doing like some fellowship right now for pelvic floor whatever. I don't want to give, whatever. She's an OBGYN. She's highly intelligent. She's she's amazing. And she's always been kind of a lefty. And I think that I think that, like, between me and him, we've been like piquing her because I know that she follows my stories on Instagram a lot. And he told me, he was like, sorry, ignore that I just said it. My wife is really starting to, like, I think she's like starting to listen and starting to like see that this gender thing is really actually sick and it's wrong. And I was like, yes, good. Let's see. VF555 says everyone wants to be special and trans is something anyone can become. Hooray for billionaires banking off selling this. Exactly. Anyone can be trans. Anyone can suddenly be the oppressed special class. That gives you so many social perks.
It's a 6-page document that she completed with the vice principal, the guidance counselor, and a social worker I had never met. They gave her the sole authority to decide if I could be notified of the meeting or attend.
And she said her daughter was 13 years old. 13.
They allowed her to change her name and pronouns, restroom preference, and even choose if she chose to room with males or females on overnight school field trips.
And Judy C says, Abel, the elite don't want them breeding, and the top earning AGPs can just buy a baby if they want. Yeah, exactly. And the more that we can also, here's another thing. The more that we can separate children from parents, when we can start to promote surrogacy, where, wombs are rented, and then the intended parent is somebody different than the mother who birthed the child, that babies are kind of passed around, and we can sever that early connection early. It's the same reason why, they used to do that with selling children, in China and in like China, they would sell babies to more wealthy people. And once that child's relationship was severed from their family of origin, then they could be used for whatever because they had no loyalties, no connection. They just, they could be whatever anybody wanted them to be. They really were enslaved, emotionally and psychologically. When you disrupt that natural bonding process between a child and a mother, you can start to control humans so much better, because one of the most protecting factors is families. Is that natural bond. Now we can just have people renting wombs. Now women, the idea of woman is now so separate from mother. A female is just a womb to be rented and used, and then the real women are the AGPs who get to keep the kid and can instill whatever they want the child to believe. It's absolutely a way to just control humans. Once you start breaking up families, and this is why I get so frustrated and people don't see how foolish it is when they get mad at me when I say that strong family values is so crucial to maintaining our power and our autonomy in society. When you have a strong foundational family who will back you up, that is absolutely protecting. You are so much less vulnerable to institutional capture. You are less, or for being brainwashed by these institutions, by being swayed by these external actors who want to use you for different reasons. Your family will care about you because it's the way, families aren't perfect, but I just feel like if you look at so many of the movies, it's always trying to like make children, shake their faith in their family. Oh, it's always the story of the family who doesn't understand the kid, and the kid has to like break away to be his true self. We see that story over and over and over again. What does that serve to do? To say, don't trust your family of origin. Make your own family. Find other people who really care about you. Except they don't care about you. They only care about you so long as they can use you. The one thing about a family of origin, when there's real connections, when a mother and a baby have really had time to bond, when there's healthy attachment styles with everybody, then there is an inherent natural motivation and drive to protect each other. And to truly protect each other, not just so long as we can use each other. That is an unconditional type of love. That is I'm going to do what's best with you, and I'm going to I'm going to do what's best for you, whether it makes me popular with you or not. It's because I love you that much. I don't need to win favor with you at the time when you're not able to see clearly or make good decisions for yourself. I love you that much. I'll be the bad guy. And I'll have your back no matter how much you fuck up, no matter how much you fall. And once they can convince you to abandon your family and be disconnected and to sever all of your, natural relationships, when we've destabilized the family unit, then they can really control us. You guys, people who argue with me about that, I'm just like, what planet are you on that you think it's healthier for women and children to have totally destabilized family units? So then at the end of the day, humans need human connection. Humans look for families. So if they don't have a family of origin that they can look to, they're going to create a family, and they're going to be vulnerable to nefarious people who see, this is somebody who's looking for somebody to attach to. Oh, we'll give them someone to attach to. But it's going to come with a price. You need to, you're going to need to go along with certain things. And it's even like my boyfriend who grew up with no family, who's a de facto orphan. He was happy to be what anyone needed him to be, just as long as he got to belong. That is not safe. That's not better for women and children. That you out of your mind.
The plan also stated to use her birth name when speaking to us, in effect to deceive us of the social transition that had occurred. My husband and we asked to see legal justifications for the complete disregard of our parental authority, and we were finally given a copy of the Leon County Schools lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, gender nonconforming, and questioning support guide.
Raise your hand if you are a lesbian, or if you're gay, or if you're bisexual. But really, if you're lesbian and gay, and if you are fucking sick and tired to death of being used as a shield for the trans agenda. Raise your hand if you feel that your needs and your interests have absolutely fucking nothing to do with this gender bullshit, and you're tired of being lumped in with this stuff as an excuse. Because you know why? You know why they want to lump people in together? You want to know why? Because we know that sexuality is an immutable trait. We know that sexuality, however it is, whether it's something you're born, whatever it is something that is static across that person's life. And it really is cruel to try to, convert people out of that. And that we understand now. So when the T and the Q can hide behind the LGB, it's like they're just leeching off all of the civil rights work that lesbian and gay community have done. And really the lesbian gay community isn't even all that similar. I still don't understand. Anytime I see a lesbian and I meet a lesbian and then they say that they're pro-trans, or that they're you call me she or they, my pronouns are she or they, or they say their pronoun, I'm like, come on, bro. Come on. You of all people should know better than this. You of all people should be sick to death of this shit. What are you doing? Why do you feel like you need to pander to these men? And then I always kind of feel like maybe it's some low-key bisexual person who's just trying to pander to some more males. I can't think of any other reason. I can't think of any other reason a lesbian would go along with this shit at all. Makes no sense. VF555 says it's directly attacking us. It's a lesbian. It absolutely is. Of everybody, the trans agenda is directly oppositional to the lesbian experience and the lesbian interests, which is why it's so mind-boggling to me when I meet lesbians who go along with this. I'm like, what are you doing? You're undoing all of the work of your foremothers and foresisters who have fought to carve space for you. You're just giving it away. What are you doing? I don't get it. I don't get it. Afraid to be turfed. Yeah, and exactly. And I think that's also the fear of being lumped all together, because now it's there's this whole LGBT Q community that they're the ones who are going to have to go against themselves. And of course, once again, it's women who are forced to be the ones to stand up and to put themselves on the line. It's always got to be women who have to stand up Why can't someone stand up on behalf of us for us?
In this very long guide were 3 key points. Number 1, parents are not to be informed when their children announce a transgender identity with
That's
school
so
personnel.
insane.
Number 2, children are allowed to choose the restroom that matches their gender identity without parent notification. Number 3, children have a legally protected right to keep from their parents information regarding their gender identity and steps taken by the district to affirm that identity. Perhaps the most shocking was under a Q&A, and I will read. Question: a student has exhibited behavior in school leading administrators or teachers to believe the student is LGBTQ+. Should the parents or legal guardians be notified? Answer: no. Outing a student, especially to parents, can be very dangerous to the student's health and well-being. As many as 40% of homeless youth are LGBTQ+, many of whom have been rejected by their families for being LGBTQ. Outing students to their parents can literally make them homeless. Folks, this is a lie.
Okay, again, and this is why it's so fucked up that we are censoring certain articles, like the Psychology Today article that talks about the fact that it's actually transgender students who are rejecting the family. Because again, they're taking on the stories of, we know that there was a time when this was a very religious country and gay and lesbian children and youth were being thrown out of their homes and were homeless. And I feel like transgender agenda is like capitalizing on that painful history, that painful true history, and using it to be like, see, we can't let that happen. That really was happening to us. No. Oh, they're going to throw us out on the streets and we're in danger. And it's like they're manufacturing an oppression. Again, because there's some fucked up thing in this country right now where being oppressed is like the highest identity. Oh, our parents, they won't, they'll throw us out. They'll do all these things. The most dangerous people to tell are your parents. What the fuck are you doing? Trying to destabilize a family? Are you out of your mind? How does that make for a healthy community? Are you fucking insane? Adult human homo female says, yes, I have an older sister who is part of the trans cult, and she's always had behavioral anti-authority behavior. Exactly. And they'll push away the parents first. Just if anyone, if they even question, because they're being taught that that's okay. Now it's being reinforced by the school, saying, yeah, you don't have to tell your parents. You don't need to listen to your parents. They're dangerous. Crumbly Duckling says, I saw even a religious org today admitted that the T is incompatible with LGB and having always stuck them together. That's a good sign. Good. It is good. And it's good that when we have religious and other communities who can see that the right thing to do is to accept the LGB, but you don't let the T sneak its way in as a Trojan horse. That the LGB did have a legitimate claim to needing, this sort of civil rights movement, and that this has come in sort of, snuck right in with it and didn't have an equal agenda or a legitimate one. VF555, yes, and lesbians are still the ones oppressed because now we are terrorists. It is horrifying the way that lesbians in general are being caricaturized, and that's what it is. A lot of lesbians want to be like, no, we're not the TERFs, because they're looking at all these horrifying caricatures and threats of violence against TERFs. Oh, we punch TERFs, we'll fuck TERFs up. That's scary. They're like, yeah, look what happened to, look at Mitch Fest. Look at the attacks on the lesbian community. And they're thinking, well, no, we don't want any smoke. Yeah, call me she, they, whatever, bro. Just stay the fuck away from me. And I hate to say it, but it's true. And it's like, and I read somewhere where lesbians are talking about I guess, het privilege or even bisexual privilege, because one thing that I felt like I kind of had was, it was like I had, if I had like a man in my life, I could go sick him on the other men. Like, yo, you go deal with these motherfuckers, because I'm not doing it. You go fight these clowns. When you're in a lesbian relationship, you don't necessarily have a man and go, yo, you go fight those men. It's going to be one or the two of you who have to go stand up to the men. You got me fucked up. I'm not dealing with him. That's why I carry a gun. But it's like also, like when I have a man, I'm not the one who has to stand up and do that shit. I make him go do it. I'm out of here. I'll fall back. And that's not fair. Then you have two women who are forced to, try to stand up to these psychopaths who are dangerous and scary. I wouldn't want to do it either. Looney 28, Virginia Arnold Prince, an American trans activist who popularized the term transgender, used to spy on LGB events in order to mimic their strategies and steal their contacts. He has openly said, wow. And I don't doubt that for a second. Dear Chimera says, I think T has a legitimate claim to not experience homophobia. Feminine males have been harassed for years in the past, both gay men and HSTS. No, absolutely. Listen, and at the end of the day, and let me be clear, never do I advocate for stripping fundamental rights and protections from anybody. Not trans or queer or whoever, self-identifying, whatever. What I'm against is applying additional privileges that strip the rights and privileges away from women that were hard fought. But never, 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 do I think it's okay that, I think that everyone deserves basic dignity and respect. It's not okay to, they're not subhuman. They're not less than. They just shouldn't have, be punished with getting, their rights stripped in any sort of way. But I don't think that they should be awarded like special privileges. No, but I totally agree with that. Allie Reeser says, my neighbor's teen daughter is a lesbian who's very butch and gorgeous. She started court-ordered counselor for a misdemeanor and after 3 sessions announced that she's trans. Jesus fucking Christ. Sad. Sad.
That is driving a very dangerous wedge between children and their parents. These guidelines also send the message to the child that parents are the enemy and that children need to be protected from their parents instead of by their parents. That their input and authority are no longer important. This created a huge conflict with our daughter and us. We were the only people in her lives not affirming this new, shiny, glittery identity that we thought would ultimately lead to her self-harm. Social transition is a complex psychosocial intervention that should always involve parents as it requires clinical supervision. Further, schools are grossly
Absolutely. It should be clinically supervised. First of all, kids shouldn't be trans, period. Okay? Period. But it absolutely should. You should have experts involved in what's going on. And that requires parental consent, period. This is enraging. I'm posting that, and I've really tried to keep all of my YouTube work and activist work away from my regular social groups and my my school community and stuff like that I'm involved with my kids. But this is where I'm about to break that fourth wall and start posting some of my shit in we have a big parent group in my area that's some 40,000 people. I might share this and just be like, this is happening in the high school next door. This isn't in some random state, some random high school's doing weird stuff. This is happening here. And you guys need to start paying attention because this is going, if we just keep ignoring it and we keep turning a blind eye to it, one day we're going to wake up and we're going to be in a crisis. It's already happening.
To be making these decisions. We know this because social transition is the first step toward medical transition that can include experimental medications and hormones and sometimes surgeries that often cause long-term irreversible damage, such as sterility and sexual dysfunction to the child that is irreversible.
Irreversible damage. And additionally, what she's saying is absolutely true. people say, they say, oh, social transition is harmless. It's just cutting your hair, wearing different clothes, going through different pronouns. But we know that children are at a vastly higher risk of medical transition once they are affirmed in social transitioning. The chances of it is some 80 to 95% of all children who claim to have a gender identity that is incongruous with their biological sex end up desisting. They end up realigning with their biological sex unless that child has been promoted to socially transition, if she's been affirmed in socially transitioning. Once that happens, they are on a fast track to medicalization. And it is somewhere of like 85% of children who are affirmed in socially transitioning end up medically transitioning. So no, it's not harmless. No, it's not necessarily reversible. Yes, it's serious. And yes, you have no fucking business doing this with other people's children who you are charged to protect. How dare you?
Fundamentally, children and teens cannot consent to these interventions because they do not have the maturity or capacity to understand the long-term consequences of these choices. What my husband and I learned after months and months of research is the following. There has been a sharp increase in teen girls suddenly becoming distressed about their gender and coming out as transgender. If you're unfamiliar with the work of Dr. Lisa Littman or Abigail Schreier, please look into their work. They have pioneered research in this area and uncovered what Dr. Littman coins as rapid onset gender dysphoria. And this phenomenon has become a social contagion among teen girls, and now we are seeing teen boys as well.
Yeah, totally. And one thing that she said that I want to point out was that children are doing this at a time where their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed, meaning they intellectually cannot grasp the gravity of their decisions, that the concept of long-term consequence is something that they physically, intellectually cannot grasp. They are not fully developed yet to grasp long-term consequence. And this is proven and shown, this reflects in research studies that show the vast majority of children who are referred to gender clinics for medicalization, for puberty blockers, followed by cross-sex hormones, which we know results in sterility 100% of the time. When those children are asked if they want to do anything to preserve their fertility, if they want to freeze their ova, if they want to freeze their sperm and save it so that they can have biological children using artificial reproductive technologies down the line, some 80 to 85% of children decline. They say, no thanks, I don't ever want to have kids. That's because you're asking 12 and 13-year-olds serious life decisions that they won't be faced with for another 2 decades. Of course, they are not capacitated to answer that question or to give consent. Of course not. And we see women who say how much they regret it. And then they need, again, then I promise you, transgenderism and surrogacy go hand in hand. When you sterilize an entire subset of the population before they're at an age to even think about whether or not they want to have children, then they're going to eventually fall in love, and it is a very human drive to want to procreate with somebody that you feel like you're in love with, and you're at a place where you want to share that with somebody, and you're sterilized. So what do next? Well, you just go rent a woman. Come on, there's a whole bunch of them. There's a lot of poor women too. The economy's fucked. Just go rent a womb. It's not hard. They go hand in hand. Surrogacy and transgenderism go hand in hand.
Many of these girls have co-occurring mental health issues, such as anxiety, ADHD, previous trauma, depression, and up to 40% are autistic. When parents are excluded, these issues often go unchecked and unresolved, putting the child at further risk of psychological and physical harm. As with a lot of issues...
Hold on. Crumbly Duckling says those knitted fake willies put in girls' underwear before they're even potty trained makes me so angry. Poor babies were never allowed to accept themselves. What? Can you please send me a link about that? At aslightlytwistedfemale at gmail.com if you feel like it or have time. Because what? That is... How is that not just obviously child abuse?
In our culture today, this has become extremely politicized. But I'm here to tell you, this issue impacts all types of families of every race, atheist, religions, everyone. This was also not an isolated incident in Leon County. I wish it had been. This is happening all over our state. I could list 12 counties in the state of Florida that have the same exact guidance, same wording, everything.
And add Pennsylvania to that list, Cheter County to that list. It's happening here too. Don't think we're exempt.
On their website today. This is also happening all over our country. Some would even say that the schools are ground zero for spreading this indoctrination and social contagion. So here's my call to action for all of you. Get comfortable having these conversations. Get comfortable saying the word transgender. Do your research and be informed. Understand all treatment options available. Talk with your children, your neighbors, your church, your school administration. It is not transphobic to ask questions. It is not transphobic to do research and be informed. And it is certainly not transphobic to want to protect your child from an ideology that can have long-term devastating outcomes for your child and your family. As parents, we have opinion about anything and everything that can impact our child's mental health and physical well-being. This issue of transgender ideology is no different. You're allowed to have an opinion about this. Because if you wait until transgender ideology comes to your home, it's too late. It's too late to have these opinions. It's too late to have these conversations. The schools are continuing to align their policies with activist organization positions instead of the U.S. Constitution and the Florida Parent Bill of Rights, and this must stop.
We've got to stop being afraid of being labeled transphobic. Transphobia is not a thing. Transphobia is not real. There is no such thing as transphobia. There is no such thing as a transphobic person. Transphobic is a term used to silence people and to scare them out of asking questions or poking around for information or learning more or getting involved or messing up what trajectory they're on. Do not let that word silence you. Do not let that make you afraid. If you get real repercussions because of transphobia, take it to the house. Go find some conservative lawyer and start filing lawsuits. Now is the time. Now everybody needs to start. If you're quietly, gender critical, now's the time to go from being quietly gender critical to vocally gender critical. People need to see that there are others. When I was a young mother, I had no examples of women breastfeeding, but I wanted to breastfeed my child. So I stayed home for nearly the entire year because I was so stressed out about having to expose myself in public. I was so afraid of a nip slip. He didn't want a cover, and I didn't see other women doing it. I didn't have examples of other women doing it. And I remember crying one time when I got stuck out in public and my son was screaming because he was hungry, and I was so overwhelmed. So once I got comfortable with doing it, I made a point to be that example that I didn't have. I made a point to breastfeed openly everywhere that I could. I took pictures and I shared them because I wanted other women to see that it's okay, that breasts are wholesome, that they are falsely sexualized by men who want to claim ownership of our bodies, so that we choose not to breastfeed, so we preserve our breasts for them for sexual purposes. When you set an example, when you show people that something that is hard can be done, and that it can be done effectively and safely, and you're okay, this is how you do it, more people will follow suit. I remember the more that I was openly breastfeeding, I remember more than once, more than a few times, I had another mother come sit next to me on the same bench and breastfeed her child. Didn't necessarily even say anything to me, just came and sat not too far away from me. And I was glad to be that anchor, that other women could come and just sit and be close to me and know that it was okay. You can do that. We can do that. Whether it's sharing a meme, whether it's leaving some comment about something, just saying, you know what? That's not okay. Or sharing an article that exposes some of this stuff. You don't need to be a hardcore activist. You don't need to, mass, email your entire work and put all this hardcore turf rhetoric on it. There are small ways to show other people, hey, you're not the only one who started wondering whether or not this stuff really makes any sense.
We must hold the schools accountable when they violate parental rights, and I truly believe that courage begets courage. Our lawsuit against the Leon County School Board is ultimately about protecting the rights of parents to raise their child without the interference of government officials. Parents know their children better than anyone else. It is my job to protect my child, and the school took that away from me. The time to take back our parental authority in schools on every issue is now. Thank you.
You goddamn right it is. All right, guys, my son's home, but like I said, now's the time. We've got it, really be unified in this sort of. Oh, and I want to say,
Now, if the last 2 weeks have taught us anything, it's that the left is obsessed with teaching children about sexual and gender identity.
Where is it?
In private schools, it's dubbed.
I gotta go in a second, but I just wanted to say one thing. Hold on. Hang on, I'll be there in 1 second. So before I sign off, I just wanted to mention one thing. So it's probably not even, it's just stupid at this point, but somebody brought up to me, I guess there's this somebody was on Karen, the Chicana feminista lady was on Karen Davis's live stream saying how I'm a doxer and people, I shouldn't be in the community and whatever. And it's so dumb, yo. It's so dumb. This woman is a weirdo, or at least has been a weirdo towards me for a long time, and has had I don't know what the fuck, whatever. Some people just want attention from you, and she's always I blocked her at some point because she just always made asshole comments. And this whole doxing thing has to do with the fact that back when I had like 100 subscribers, like literally on my like second ever video, and I didn't think anyone was ever going to watch my videos, I shared one of my videos in a gender critical feminist Facebook group, and I had like some really like misogynistic comments about like my body, my makeup that I was wearing. They said I was like trying to be sexual, trying to like, they were like super sexualizing me. So I like commented back and I was like, fuck out of here. And so I like screenshot a couple of the comments and I made a video about it, responding to it, how I thought it's the video, it's my what is it? It was like fad femmes get off my tits or something like that. Oh, titillated fad femmes get off my tits. It's like literally probably my third video. And they're like, oh my God, you're doxing her. You know, you're putting her at risk. I had like 150 views on it. So in less than a day, I went and I like edited the names, or I like blurred the names, which I felt like I really shouldn't have had to. And whatever, I screenshot comments. This is my big doxing them. Turns out the fucking girl that I doxed is some like hardcore British like feminist TERF. She's got like 1,000 public pictures of her wearing like a TERF hat, and she's like all over YouTube with her real name. She has like 50 million, like she's like a huge activist, and everyone knows her by her full name. So I thought I was like endangering her by attaching her name to comments in the screenshot. Oh, people don't want to be outed that they're, gender critical. Get the fuck out of here, okay? You sexualize me, you disrespect me, you say things that are degrading to me as a woman and as a female. I'm going to fucking put you on blast. And I don't give a fuck. You thought I was an easy target because I was a small channel, and you didn't think that I was ever going to get views. But I grew faster than you thought. So get the fuck out of here. If you have a problem with it, Chicana feminista, I blocked your dumb ass because you always had some really disgusting, petty, borderline misogynistic comments to say. You're miserable for no reason. I don't know if you're jealous of me or whatever, but I don't like to get involved in all of these, I have no real interactions with you. The fact that you're still going around to channels and like trying to campaign that people that I shouldn't be in the community. Yeah, let's see how well that works. Okay, sweetheart? Because since you did that, I've already been up like 200 subscribers. No one gives a fuck. I didn't dox anybody. If you say something fucked up to me and I feel like it's worth calling you out, I'm going to screenshot your shit and I'm going to put it on the screen. If you don't want that to happen, don't say misogynistic things to me and do not sexualize me, because I'm not fucking playing with you. I don't know why people think that I'm an easy target, because I really don't usually get involved in these public spats. But please understand, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. I'm very scrappy and I have a thick skin, and I'm not fucking playing with anybody. I think it's pointless to get involved in all these little back and forth type shit. I really do. I think that there's so much more work at hand. And I'm very busy. Like my kid, I already got to get off the stream. I have children. I have other things to do. I'm not interested in following along with all the drama of the day because I think it's pointless. Most people who watch my videos don't know who the main, commenters are on all this sort of stuff. They're not following along with this shit. I'm not really all that interested in it. But if you want attention from me, I don't know what to tell you, hon. You're not getting it. I'm like, you've had a million different reasons that suddenly like I need to be canceled, and this is just the latest. Whatever your hate boner is for me, sorry, I'm not interested. I know, rejection sucks, doesn't it? Well, I don't know, Chicana feminist, so why don't you fucking do something, contribute. The idle mind is the devil's playground. I think that's the issue. You just have nothing else going on. Okay, I love you guys. Sorry for that rant. But Ali Reeser says, let people underestimate you. That's right. Yeah, I've been underestimated my whole life. I remember in high school, everybody used to think I was stupid just because I like to wear makeup and I like to dress up. And I was in all APs. I had I had an excellent SAT. I went to like one of the best. I got accepted into one of the best colleges of everybody in my graduating class. Keep fucking thinking I'm a bimbo. Keep fucking thinking I'm a slut. Keep fucking thinking that I'm an airhead. I've heard it all literally my whole life. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to change. I like who I am. I like what I do. I know who I am, and I don't need the approval of people who are just looking to tear me down for whatever reason. And I don't have time. I'm busy and I'm focused. I'm focused. You're not going to derail me. So, nice try. Thank you guys. I love you. I gotta go. Keep staying strong. Fuck this true ideology. Yeah. We'll do like a rap song. We can have like an open mic. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Take care.